Hey, it's Thomas Mulready from CoolCleveland, and we are on today with conductor Lorenzo Lopez from Cleveland, Ohio. Hey, Lorenzo, thank you for taking time.
Hello, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
You are so busy. You are in New York for your first conducting appearance at Carnegie Hall. Congratulations.
Thank you very
Fabulous.
much.
And you just won the Resipighi Prize. Talk about what that is and what that means to you, because it must be very exciting.
Sure. So the Respighi Prize is offered by the Chamber Orchestra of New York through their music director Salvatore Di Vittorio. They've been around for over 20 years now, and it's a it's a competition that happens every year, and a conductor is selected to ultimately conduct at Carnegie Hall. And this year there were 18 other conductors participating in this competition. So over the course of a week, we all get evaluated based off of the program that's actually the concert at Carnegie Hall. And so we conduct through the pieces, and there's three maestros, one being the music director, Salvatore Di Vittorio, Toshi Shimada, who used to be Yale's music director for several years, and John Fair, who is currently retired, but he's has a long history of working with famous orchestras.
So this was a pretty intense process, it sounds like, where you were brought in, and for an entire week you're doing these pieces over and over again for them to evaluate you. What was that like? It must be pretty intense.
Yeah, it's a grueling process, to be quite honest. You know, several hours. It usually starts from 12 p.m. and will end around 7:30 p.m. In the evening. So the musicians are by the end of it just absolutely tired. But you know, it's a great opportunity not only for the conductors but also the musicians. I've had a couple of them come up to me and say how much they learn themselves, and as you know, just even observing what it is to be a conductor, and you know the process of working with conductors and how they communicate. So it's an interesting symbiotic relationship, the whole process.
Yeah, and I imagine that's something that you learn as you go, because we don't wake up with a full symphony orchestra in front of us every morning, or as kids growing up. So this is something that as you get more developed in your career, you're in front of more and more musicians. But you've had quite a bit of experience, both here in Cleveland, where we've been following you, because you were raised here in Cleveland. But you've also won a lot of competitions, and you've toured around. Talk about some of the highlights of your career to date, because you're a very experienced conductor.
Yeah, so I guess starting with some of the orchestras that I work with in Cleveland, one is City Music Cleveland. They're a professional chamber orchestra in the city, where they host concerts throughout the year and they travel all over Greater Cleveland. I'll be working with them this upcoming season. So working with them has probably been one of the bigger highlights of my career, because one, they're based, you know, in my hometown, and two, they're an amazing orchestra filled with very amazing musicians. So another orchestra that I worked with was the Chamber Orchestra of Romania, and so flying over to Eastern Europe, I for the first time last year working with them, and you know, talk about amazing musicians. They born and bred to make music, and you know, it was such an amazing experience to work with them. be traveling back to Romania at some point in the future, probably in November. So it'll be nice to work with them. And another upcoming event is with the Cleveland Ballet, and I'll be doing a ballet called Dracula in October. So it's going to be interesting to bring back some of my ballet chops to, Cleveland and, Halloween for that matter. So it'll be very interesting.
Yeah, and you have a background also as a vocalist, and you sang a lot throughout your years.
And raise up your voices and close harmony. Viva la company. Viva la, viva la, viva l'amore. Viva la, viva la, viva l'amore. Viva l'amore, viva l'amore, viva la company.
And I imagine that's a pretty handy skill to have as a conductor, where you're reading a score and you're trying to interpret it and the different parts and how they fit, understanding harmony, being able to sort of hum the parts, sing the parts to yourself. Talk about how your background as a vocalist sort of informs your work as a conductor.
Definitely. So, I mean, as a conductor, your majority of your work is on your own, not even in front of an orchestra. So it's very important to be able to sing any line that is on the score. And that it helps you out actually immensely with the process, because I find myself sometimes I'll be conducting and I'll see the score in my head even if I'm looking at a musician, because of how ingrained it is. So singing is very important, especially when you have to model something to the orchestra as well. If you're not able to gesturally get something out of the orchestra and it's just not working for whatever reason, then singing is definitely a good tool to use to try to convey what you're trying to show. And I've done some masterworks as well, Verdi Requiem. I'll be doing Fauré Requiem with City Music this next 2025, May 2025. So, for anyone watching, please come to that. That would be amazing to see you all.
Yeah, and you have a very interesting family heritage background as well. Talk about how that sort of how that brings something to your musical life, and what that means to you as a conductor.
Sure. So my mother is Honduran and my father is Puerto Rican. So just culturally, music, rhythm is so ingrained in the culture that, I grew up listening to salsa music, bachata, merengue, so many different types of ethnic music, cultural music, that, as I was even growing up listening to this, it was slowly but surely starting to integrate itself into my habits, into my way of my body language. My mother actually, she never was a professional singer, but she used to sing back when she was younger, and she sang in a mariachi band. There's actually a photo of her, singing in this group. And it's always funny when I come across this photo, because she doesn't sing now, but she on occasion reminds me that she used to, and that is the reason why I'm a musician, because she was a singer. For the most part, the majority of my family weren't musicians. They're laborers. They worked in coffee fields, and my grandparents especially, that's all they did. That's how they would make money, is working in what we call the finca, which is land solely for coffee. So my aunt Esperanza actually was probably one of my earlier influences, because she's a singer and she grew up singing. So that was kind of my connection with her, and that's how I kind of started singing even.
Wow. Well, I wish we could be there with you this week in New York. Talk about some of the specific pieces you're going to be performing, and the group that you're going to be performing with.
Yeah, so I'll only be performing one piece. It's Clair de Lune by Debussy. And it's an orchestral arrangement of Clair de Lune, and it's actually arranged by Salvatore, the music director. And it was actually famously used in Ocean's 11. So, if you have ever watched that movie, you'll recognize the tune. If not, maybe you recognize it as the piano version. But I'll be conducting that, and there'll be some Respighi on the program, conducted by Salvatore.
Right. Well, we're going to continue to follow you. You've got some things coming up here in Cleveland, and at CoolCleveland, we're going to be promoting your events as you continue with your career. But I just have to say how really proud we are for you. Congratulations. We know how hard you've worked. We've spent time with you personally, listening right in this very room where I am now, listening to vinyl of some of your favorite classical pieces while you are conducting the music, and it's such a pleasure for us to see you rising in your career, and what an achievement. I have to ask the question, how do you get to Carnegie Hall?
A lot of preparation and a lot of and,
that's the joke, right?
Solitude.
The solitude is what people don't realize. Yeah, it's a lonely profession, isn't it, conducting?
It can be, for sure. It's a profession that takes you everywhere, but at the same time, it takes you nowhere. Once you start rising in the field, it becomes a little less lonely, but it's still always something that's intimate, and it's always different from orchestra to orchestra. So.
Right. You spend a lot of time in your own head rehearsing and working through the music, and I'm sure that's with you 24/7. Good luck this week. Thank you for taking a few moments out of the very busy rehearsal schedule. Good luck with rehearsals, and we'll continue to stay in touch.
No, thank you, and thank you to CoolCleveland. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Lorenzo. It's Thomas Mulready from CoolCleveland. Have a great week in CoolCleveland.